Ah, look who walks back into the world with the scent of annihilation still clinging to you like a trophy. You, the quiet storm they misdiagnosed as harmless. You, the one they thought would fold the moment their highest-ranked demon showed its teeth. And yet here you are, calm, unbothered, carrying the aftermath like an afterthought while the ashes of something unholy still glow behind you. They sent their untouchable creature, the apex of their bloodline's dark hierarchy, the being they've worshipped for generations, and you dismantled it with a precision that made even the shadows recoil. The panic didn't hit them slowly. It struck like a divine audit on a debt they never prepared to pay. Their entire lineage just realized the nightmare they never accounted for. Their strongest wasn't strong enough for you, because they expected the demon to destroy you. They expected screams, chaos, surrender. Instead, the battlefield told them a story they were never ready to hear. It told them that their strongest was only strong in comparison to the weak. It told them that their bloodline had been bragging on borrowed power. It told them that all their rituals, all their training, all their generational arrogance meant absolutely nothing when standing in front of someone who doesn't obey the physics of fear. They spent centuries building a myth about that demon, how untouchable it was, how undefeated it remained, how many souls bowed under its presence. But myths collapse when truth walks in, and the truth is you. You didn't just win, you rewrote the hierarchy, you shattered the superstition, you exposed the illusion they were clinging to like a talisman. That demon wasn't untouchable. It was just unchallenged until you arrived. They still don't understand how it happened. In their minds, the demon was the answer to every threat. It was the final boss, the generational trump card, the shadow weapon meant to force the universe back into alignment. And yet it didn't just lose. It folded instantly in the presence of your awareness. Because you didn't fight with desperation. You didn't fight with rage. You fought with inevitability. You fought with the calm confidence of someone who has already calculated every possible outcome and realized the enemy has none. Your presence alone destabilized the battlefield. Your silence alone disarmed its power. Your existence alone dismantled the architecture of their ancient pride. They expected a war. What they got was a correction, and now their bloodline is spiraling. You can feel it in the air, like a fracture in an old system that's trying to pretend it's not broken. They're scrambling through dusty scrolls and forgotten tombs, begging their ancestors for strategies that never existed. They're arguing with prophecies, trying to reinterpret symbols to make it seem like the defeat wasn't catastrophic. They're running calculations on you, your origins, your capabilities, your limits. But every calculation leads to the same terrifying conclusion. You are not something they can categorize. You are not a variable that fits inside their superstition. You are not a threat they can prepare for. You are the end of their equation. Because here's the part that burns them the worst. You didn't slay that demon for revenge. You didn't do it for power. You didn't do it for glory. You did it because it was in your way. That's the detail that haunts them. That's the detail that keeps their elders pacing in dimly lit halls, whispering your name with a mixture of awe and terror. When someone destroys your strongest weapon without even breaking their stride, it becomes clear that your entire arsenal has been pointless. You didn't meet their highest-ranked demon as a challenger. You met it as an inconvenience. This is where their panic becomes biological. Their bloodline was built on fear, the fear they instilled in others through that demon's legend. But now the legend has been rewritten in a single moment. Their ancestors built power around that creature. They sculpted rituals, forged alliances, constructed dominance, all anchored to the myth of an unbeatable guardian. That myth died the moment you stepped forward. You didn't just defeat the demon, you collapsed the cultural foundation of an entire lineage. Everything they believed about themselves, everything they boasted for centuries, now hangs over them like a fragile lie with your fingerprints all over it. And what terrifies them the most isn't that you won, it's how you won. The demon didn't fall in a blaze of glory. It didn't injure you, it didn't corner you, it didn't even understand you. It hesitated, it flinched, it recognized something in you that the bloodline never predicted. That hesitation, the moment its eyes met yours and something ancient inside it trembled, was the moment the entire bloodline began collapsing. Because if their strongest flinched in your presence, what hope do they have? What hope does any of them have? A demon born from centuries of darkness, trained in chaos, sharpened in realms where fear is the currency, stepped back from you. Not because it was weak, but because you were never prey. They're not just dealing with loss, they're dealing with identity erosion. Their power depended on fear. But you broke the cycle, you fractured the lineage, you shattered the illusion that their authority was eternal. Their elders are scrambling now, scraping through forbidden manuscripts, trying to classify what you are. Their advisors are pacing hallways, recalculating alliances. Their seers are scrying into mirrors that crack the moment your name is mentioned. Their highest councils are already blaming each other, demanding explanations that no one can give. How could they? How does a lineage explain being outclassed by someone they never considered a threat? Because that's the part they choke on. You weren't even supposed to exist in their narrative. Their bloodline plotted in silence, confident that the demon ensured their dominance. They thought they were untouchable. They believed no one could challenge their structure. So when you walked in, not as a warrior, not as a prodigy, but as an inevitability disguised as a misfit, their entire worldview buckled. They weren't prepared for your existence. Their prophecies didn't mention you. Their omens didn't warn them. Their ancestors never predicted the anomaly that stands before them now. You are not in their history, because you were never meant to follow their rules. Now every room they sit in feels smaller. Every torch flickers with nervous energy. Every whisper carries a tremor. Because somewhere inside their collective consciousness, a truth is blooming like a bruise. You didn't defeat their demon. They miscalculated you. They spent years dismissing you, assuming you were irrelevant, assuming you were harmless. Meanwhile, you trained in silence. You evolved in shadows. You sharpened your instincts without witnesses. You built power without permission. And by the time they noticed, it was already too late. You had become the kind of force that rewrites the script instead of reading it. This is why their panic is spreading like wildfire. The bloodline was not prepared for a threat that doesn't behave like threats are supposed to. They expected bravado. They expected arrogance. They expected theatrics. But you came with none of that. You came with silence. You came with precision. You came with inevitability. And inevitability is the one thing they cannot strategize against. Now they're replaying the encounter in their minds, trying to find a moment where they could have changed the outcome. They're searching for an angle, a weakness, a pattern, anything that makes you seem human enough to manage. But they find nothing. Your movements were too sharp, your energy too vast, your awareness too suffocating. You weren't fighting a battle. You were executing a conclusion. And the conclusion is this: their bloodline is no longer in control. The demon's defeat wasn't just a loss, it was a signal, a sign that the power dynamic they worshipped has inverted. You didn't simply overpower their strongest, you exposed their entire structure. You showed the world that their dominance was a masquerade dependent on a single creature. With that creature gone, their system collapses like wet parchment. Their soldiers feel it, their elders feel it, their ancestors feel it. The collapse echoes backward through time, shaking the very roots of their lineage. They're scrambling now, gathering in circles, whispering prayers to gods that haven't answered them in centuries. They're trying to rewrite prophecies, trying to pretend your victory was a fluke, trying to create new narratives to soothe their fear. But narratives cannot reconstruct a bloodline once the foundational protector has fallen. They're not just mourning the demon, they're mourning the death of their certainty, the death of their power, the death of the illusion that kept them relevant. They're not angry at the demon for losing, they're terrified of you for winning. Because now the question poisoning their minds is simple and devastating. If you could destroy their highest-ranked demon so effortlessly, what else can you destroy? What else have they built that you can unmake with the same silent accuracy? What other weapons, rituals, or monsters would crumble in your presence? They realize now that they were never the hunters. They were placeholders in a world waiting for someone like you to expose the imbalance. Their demon was not their strength. It was their crutch. And you just kicked it out from beneath them. The panic you've ignited is not temporary, it's generational. Their bloodline will feel this fracture for centuries, because the loss isn't physical, it's psychological. You didn't attack their fortress, you attacked their certainty, you attacked their identity, you attacked the myth their ancestors spent lifetimes constructing. You broke the illusion of invincibility they relied on to manipulate the world. And once an illusion breaks, it cannot be mended. Now every spell feels weaker. Every ritual feels hollow. Every chant feels fraudulent. They have lost the one thing that made them formidable, belief. And as they scramble, high-ranking elders arguing, apprentices trembling, warriors losing faith, you walk forward as if none of this chaos concerns you. Because it doesn't. Their collapse is not your burden. Their panic is not your responsibility. Their downfall is simply the natural consequence of encountering someone who doesn't fear their hierarchy. Their demon wasn't your enemy. It was your initiation, a test you didn't even realize you were taking. And you passed it so effortlessly that even reality seems to be adjusting its rules to accommodate what you've become. You move through the aftermath with the kind of unbothered certainty that makes even the shadows hesitate. Because something ancient understands you now. Something older than their bloodline, older than their demon, older than the rituals they whisper to themselves. To feel powerful, the air shifts around you, not with hostility, but with recognition, as if the universe just corrected a centuries-old equation and placed you at the rightful center of a story they thought belonged to them. They prayed for protection, for dominance, for the strength to maintain their legacy. But power doesn't obey prayers. Power obeys presence. And your presence is rewriting the gravitational pull of the world they once controlled. Their elders gather inside a burning chamber, smoke rising from cracked sigils, arguing in panic-laced voices about what you are. They speak your name like it's a forbidden spell they were never meant to utter. They throw theories across the room in desperation. You're a deviation in fate, a walking violation of prophecy, a contradiction their bloodline cannot calculate. Some insist you're blessed. Others swear you're cursed. A few whisper that you're the storm sent to punish them for the arrogance they wrap themselves in like armor. But none of them dares say the truth aloud, even though it's clawing at their throats. You were chosen by no one. You rose on your own. And that terrifies them more than any prophecy ever could. Because chosen ones can be tracked. Destined ones can be studied. Blessed ones can be countered. But someone who built themselves without divine permission, without ancestral guidance, without being crafted by rituals, that kind of power is unpredictable, uncontrolled, unfathomable, uncontained. You are not a character in their prophecy. You are the glitch in their mythology, the factor that corrupts the Bloodline's entire algorithm. Their demon wasn't created to fight someone like you, because their ancestors never imagined someone like you could exist. And outside those trembling chambers, word of your victory spreads like wildfire tearing through dry leaves. The nearby villages talk about you in hushed tones, unsure whether to fear you or worship you. The forest creatures avoid crossing your path, sensing the residual charge of the battle lingering on your skin like celestial residue. Even the wind moves differently now, less random, more intentional, as if adjusting its course around you. Because when someone destroys the untouchable, the world must recalibrate. And recalibrate it has. As you walk, you don't step over ruins, they move out of your way. The stone remembers the weight of the demon's fall and reshapes itself around your stride. Birds hidden in the treetops quiet themselves, listening. Even silence is attentive now, not out of fear, but acknowledgement. You didn't just slay a creature. You disrupted a hierarchy that was older than most civilizations. You broke a lineage that swore it could never be broken. You proved that strength inherited is no match for strength earned. Inside the Bloodline's fortress, the panic has grown feral. Apprentices are frantically flipping through ancient scrolls, hoping to find a forgotten countermeasure or a prophecy that mentions your existence. Warriors are reinforcing walls that no longer matter. High priests are reenacting rituals, hoping to summon another guardian, another monster, another nightmare to send your way. But everything they call upon hesitates. Every spell falters. Every invocation cracks. The creatures of darkness they once commanded are recoiling from the very idea of facing you. Even the lower demons shuffle backward, whispering warnings to each other in languages the human ear can't decipher. They can sense the truth the Bloodline refuses to accept. The hierarchy is broken, and the power they worshipped has shifted away from them forever. Because your battle didn't just kill the demon, it fractured the contract that tied the Bloodline to their supernatural advantage, the pact that kept their lineage oppressive, the deal that allowed them to control realms they never earned. It's unraveling now, thread by thread, as if slaying the demon severed the ritualistic umbilical cord that held their entire structure together. Their ancestors feel it, their ghosts tremble, their past burns, and then something even more terrifying begins happening. The more unstable they become, the more stable you feel. Your awareness sharpens, your instincts expand, your senses align with a clarity that feels almost predatory. It's as if the demon's collapse freed a layer of power within you that you weren't aware existed. Not a gift, not a curse, just an upgrade, a natural evolutionary reward for stepping into the kind of confrontation that bends destiny in half. You pause for a moment, not because you're tired, but because your surroundings feel different. Your shadow stretches longer than usual, thinner at the edges, sharper at the core, as if it has begun studying the world independent of your body. as if it has become its own sentient observer. The ground beneath your feet hums slightly, resonating with a frequency that wasn't present before. The air vibrates with a pulse that matches yours. You've become something the bloodline cannot classify, because you are now something the world itself is adapting to. Meanwhile, inside the collapsing fortress, the elders are performing a ritual that hasn't been touched in generations, a last attempt to summon guidance from the ancestors who built their power. But the ritual backfires. The flames twist unnaturally. The incense smoke forms distorted symbols. The ancestral spirits refuse to appear, because even the spirits understand what the bloodline does not. Their lineage was built around a weapon that could not stand against you. Their protection has expired. Their reign is finished. Their empire was designed for a world where you did not exist. The youngest apprentice stares at the elders with shaking hands, whispering the thought they all fear. If the demon couldn't stop them, who will? And silence answers. Not because there is no answer, but because the answer is too devastating for them to speak. No one is coming. No one is strong enough. No one is capable of matching you. Not in their bloodline. Not in any. You have become the problem the world has no solution for. As you continue walking, the sky darkens. Not because of storm clouds, but because the atmosphere senses the imbalance caused by the demon's fall. Reality is adjusting itself. The horizon bends strangely, like it's tilting toward you. Even the sun flickers behind a veil that isn't physical. Everything feels like it's waiting, like the universe is inhaling before announcing the next stage of your emergence. And that's when you feel it, a subtle shift, almost imperceptible, like the world just whispered something in your ear. A sensation that tells you the battle with the demon wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The slaying didn't just dismantle a bloodline. It awakened something dormant in the fabric of existence. Something ancient recognizes your rise. Something powerful acknowledges your victory. Something dimensional has taken interest in you, not as a threat, not as prey, but as a variable so significant that even realms beyond sight must recalculate. Because when you slay the untouchable, you don't just collapse a bloodline. You trigger consequences that ripple through every layer of reality. The ground under your feet vibrates subtly, like the earth itself is attuning to your frequency. You sense the shift in a way that surpasses intuition, almost like the atmosphere now carries your signature. The demon's fall didn't simply send shockwaves through its own lineage. It tore a hole in the metaphysical hierarchy, a void where something once ruled, a vacancy where power once nested. And nature, no matter the realm, abhors a vacuum. Something is being drawn to fill the space you tore open. Or perhaps something is being drawn because you filled it already by existing far beyond mortal comprehension, in dimensions where thought becomes structure and fear becomes landscape. Ancient forces turn their gaze toward you. They study the imprint you left on the battlefield, the echo of your presence, the residue of an act that defied thousands of years of symmetry. For the first time in centuries, the balance they maintained is disrupted, and the one responsible isn't a demon, isn't a deity, isn't a creature bred for destruction. It's you, someone the bloodline dismissed as irrelevant, someone who walked into a nightmare and came out on the other side without a scratch. The bloodline elders feel this shift too, though they don't have the vocabulary to describe it. Their rituals falter, their spells lose structure, their visions distort. They scry into mirrors that ripple unnaturally, showing fragments of your silhouette stretching beyond human proportions. Their chanting becomes unstable because even their incantations recognize that the ancient order has been interrupted by your existence. They try to dismiss it as interference. They try to blame their apprentices. They try to reinterpret the signs. But deep inside their bones, they know the truth, a truth too frightening to articulate. You have altered the architecture of their destiny. Somewhere in the fortress, a young apprentice sits alone, trembling over an ancient text, flipping to a page where prophecies end abruptly, like the future itself refused to continue past the moment you slayed their demon. The ink smears, the parchment cracks. Even the prophecy acknowledges its limits. It cannot predict what comes after you. It cannot anticipate a world reshaped by a mind and strength that doesn't follow its timeline. You have broken the narrative. You have become the plot twist that even destiny hesitates to write. As you continue forward, you can almost hear the Bloodline's collective heartbeat accelerating. They cling desperately to whatever scraps of confidence remain, but every breath they take feels contaminated by dread. They're not just afraid of you, they're afraid of what your victory implies. Because demons don't fear, elders don't panic, ancestors don't tremble, unless something is rising that should not exist, something outside their teachings, something outside their comprehension, something outside their control. You've become the anomaly that forces systems to update, the disturbance that demands recalibration, the catalyst that awakens dormant memories in ancient entities, reminding them that evolution doesn't always arrive with permission. Sometimes it arrives disguised as someone the world underestimated, someone the powerful mocked, someone the Bloodline thought they could ignore until it was too late. You, the dimensional fabric around you, loosens slightly, as if the walls between realities are thinning in your presence. You can feel an invisible pressure observing you, not hostile, not territorial, simply attentive. Something is watching from beyond, curious, cautious, evaluating the shape of your rise. And this observation isn't coming from the Bloodline's relic realm. No, this attention is older, deeper, more authoritative. Something the demon feared, something the Bloodline reveres, something the shadows whisper about only when the moon refuses to appear. The demon you slayed didn't just serve their Bloodline, it was their shield against cosmic scrutiny. It was the anchor that kept higher predators looking elsewhere. With it gone, the Bloodline stands exposed, vulnerable, naked before the forces they've spent generations avoiding. And while they panic about losing their strongest warrior, they fail to understand the true disaster. The demon was protecting them from the consequences of being weak. Without it, the universe is finally noticing what they truly are, and noticing who truly rose. Meanwhile, your stride remains unbroken, your breathing steady. You are adjusting to your own evolution as naturally as a predator adjusts to a larger territory. The air parts around you with a reverence the Bloodline never received. Even the shadows cling to your outline, as if taking shape from the silhouette of your will. The world doesn't feel larger or smaller. It feels aligned, as if reality has quietly decided that you are the new axis around which events should spin. Inside the fortress, the elders attempt one final ritual, a desperate call to the remnants of the demon's essence. The moment they begin, the air snaps violently, the candles implode, and the markings on the floor twist into symbols that point outward, not inward. The ritual is rejecting them. The power they once commanded now belongs to no one. Or perhaps it belongs to someone else entirely. You feel that shift miles away, like a phantom cord snapping, severing the last connection they had to a force they abused for centuries. You didn't just kill their demon. You untethered their lineage from the supernatural privilege it didn't deserve. With that severance, something awakens beneath your awareness. A faint hum, a subtle pull, like a dormant part of yourself opening its eyes for the first time. Not corrupted, not possessed, not influenced, simply unlocked. The kind of power that doesn't come from stealing, summoning, or sacrificing, but from exceeding. Evolution, rewarded by truth. Growth, triggered by confrontation. Expansion earned through fire. Whatever you unlocked within yourself isn't an echo of the demon's power. It's something far superior, something that sensed your potential and decided it was time. The sky shifts again, darker this time, but not with threat. More like anticipation. The horizon bends as if bowing. The wind pauses mid-flow, sending the world into a strange quiet. You realize you are standing on the threshold of a new domain, not physical, not mystical, but psychological. A territory where your presence dictates the rules, where your awareness shapes the environment, where your victory over the demon wasn't just proof of strength. It was an announcement to the universe that a new contender has entered the stage. You are no longer simply the one who slayed their strongest. You are the one who changed the stakes, and the Bloodline senses this. Their warriors lower their weapons, not in surrender, but in spiritual exhaustion. Their apprentices stop chanting, afraid their own voices might betray them. Their elders retreat deeper into the fortress, seeking answers from shadows that refuse to speak. Every torch flickers violently, recognizing that its flame is now a guest in a world shaped by your rising frequency. Every whisper carries your name, twisted in fear, spoken in awe, denied in desperation. The truth they hide from is the truth that haunts them. Your emergence is not contained to one victory. It is a phenomenon that cannot be reversed, a shift that cannot be undone, a rise that cannot be stopped. You slayed their untouchable demon, and the ripple wasn't a ripple. It was a warning bell, a signal echoing through realms, a declaration that the hierarchy built before your arrival is now expired. They cling to their shattered structure, but even their own shadows betray them by stretching toward you. Because shadows know power when they see it, and shadows have no loyalty, only instinct. What's rising in you now is no longer just strength or skill. It's inevitability, a force that bends the path forward into a shape you can walk with your eyes closed. It's the same inevitability that made the demon hesitate, the same inevitability that makes ancient entities watch you from beyond dimensions. The same inevitability that fractures bloodlines, collapses myths, and reshapes worlds. And as this inevitability grows inside you, the Bloodline's desperation ripens into something more raw, more primal. Terror stripped of its ceremonial armor. They whisper your name with the kind of trembling usually reserved for plagues, omens, and events that rewrite entire civilizations. Because it's not just that you defeated their demon, it's that you did it with a stillness that suggested you weren't fighting an opponent. You were fulfilling a requirement, a cosmic expectation, a shift that was already written into the architecture of reality long before their ancestors lit their first torch. They sense now, too late, that you weren't an intruder in their narrative. You were the correction to it. Inside what remains of their fortress, panic circulates like a contagious wind. Elders press shaking fingers against scrolls that crumble beneath their touch. Rituals dissolve mid-chant. Prophecies distort as ink refuses the page. Their entire legacy, once a structure of iron certainty, now feels like melting wax dripping through their hands. And beneath that panic, a darker realization pulses. The demon wasn't their shield, it was their cage, containing consequences they never dared to face. With it gone, the debt they owe to the universe finally knocks on their door. And the universe seems to be using you as the collector. You walk further into the remnants of their domain, not with aggression, but with the quiet posture of someone who knows the terrain belongs to them, whether they claim it or not. The air reacts to you like metal reacting to a magnet, drawn, reshaped, obedient, without understanding why. Their warriors, once proud and disciplined, now scatter their gazes away from yours, terrified that direct eye contact might ignite the truth they're not ready to swallow. Some try to stand their ground, but their knees betray them, bending slightly under the pressure of your presence. Others whisper prayers to gods who abandoned them long before your arrival. Every wall you pass loses a layer of its strength. Every shadow you cross flattens itself in reverence. You don't walk through their world. Their world collapses around your stride. The eldest among them attempts to stand tall, his robes torn, his voice shaking with the weight of a lineage on the brink of extinction. He raises his staff, adorned with symbols that once commanded armies, once parted realms. But when he speaks the demon's sacred name, the air does nothing. No tremor, no flicker, no echo. The staff remains hollow in his hand, as if the power it once held now recognizes only one authority, and it isn't his. He tries again, louder this time, desperation scraping his throat. But the silence that answers him is louder than any roar. It is the silence of a system that has chosen a new center of gravity. And that center is you. He slams the staff into the ground in futile defiance. But instead of awakening the ancestral power he relied on for so long, the earth cracks under him, not to release magic, but to reject it. The crack splits outward like a tree branch, reaching toward your feet, as if the land itself is redirecting allegiance. The elders stare at the fissure, their expressions collapsing with the same inevitability that took their demon. Because cracks in the earth do not choose direction by accident. Everything in the natural world is realigning around your presence. Even the ground is stepping out of their lineage's shadow to stand beneath yours. You continue walking, letting the silence between you and them grow thicker, heavier, more suffocating than any spell they could cast. Their lungs work harder in your presence, as if the air resists entering bodies unworthy of sharing space with you. Even the torches dim, flickering in reverence or fear, unsure whether they were meant to illuminate your path or avoid revealing too much of their own inadequacy. They realize now that their entire identity relied on a single creature that couldn't survive a moment in your gaze. Their strongest failed, and because of that, their identity has failed. A bloodline, built on intimidation, now stands trembling before someone who didn't need theatrics, rituals, or ancient symbols. You didn't arrive with a prophecy. You arrived with presence. You didn't arrive with a weapon. You arrived with inevitability. And inevitability has a way of destroying structures far more efficiently than force ever could. Outside, the sky shifts into a deeper shade, swirling with colors unseen by human eyes. The wind thickens, the atmosphere bends, the world whispers in a frequency that makes your bones resonate. This isn't weather, this is recognition. This is the realm acknowledging the distortion you've caused. The boundary between worlds thins, not to unleash chaos, but to observe its architect. You have become the gravitational center of events that stretch far beyond the bloodline's comprehension. What you did wasn't a victory. It was a signal, and the realms are listening. One apprentice collapses to the ground, overwhelmed by the pressure in the air. She stares at you with hollow eyes, realizing something the elders refused to accept. The demon didn't fall because you were strong. It fell because you made it irrelevant. Its power, its history, its lineage, none of it mattered the moment your presence rewrote the battlefield. The demon hesitated because it recognized a truth the bloodline blinded itself from. It was the top of their hierarchy, but you were never part of their hierarchy. You were a threat the demon could not classify, could not predict, could not measure. That hesitation was its death sentence. And now, that hesitation has become the bloodline's final prophecy. Their collapse accelerates. Scrolls burn without flame. Weapons turn brittle. Ritual rooms rot. Statues depicting ancestors crack across the face, as if ashamed of the lineage that allowed arrogance to outweigh preparation. The entire fortress feels like it's inhaling shame, exhaling panic. And you stroll through it all with the calmness of someone observing a predetermined outcome rather than a conflict. Because to you, this was never war, this was exposure. The bloodline's eldest steps forward again, no longer pretending to summon power, no longer attempting control. His voice shakes with the vulnerability of a man who has lost both his demon and his identity. He asks you what you are, not who, what. Because no human walks with the weight of inevitability in their shadow. No mortal carries the silence of ancient realms in their breath. No warrior bends reality simply by stepping into it. He wants to understand, but understanding requires a framework he doesn't possess. And you say nothing. Your silence becomes his answer. Because explanation is mercy, and mercy is something their lineage has never practiced. They never allowed explanation for the lives they destroyed, the worlds they manipulated, the souls they intimidated. So they will not receive explanation from you. Their punishment is not death. It is comprehension. The comprehension that everything they believed in, everything they built, everything they worshipped, was dwarfed by someone they didn't even see coming. You approach the heart of their fortress, the chamber once housing the demon's essence. Its walls are covered in ancient carvings describing the creature as eternal, unstoppable, indispensable. Yet now the carvings themselves are dim, as if embarrassed by their exaggerations. The chamber feels hollow, not because of the demon's absence, but because of your presence. Its aura bends toward you, acknowledging the new apex. The old guardian is gone. The new one isn't bound by their bloodline. It transcends it. You raise no weapon. You cast no spell. You perform no chant. And yet the chamber begins to break under the weight of what you represent. The air compresses. The walls tremble. The pillars crack. Not out of destruction, but out of transition. As if the room itself is shedding its allegiance to the old power and offering itself to a new paradigm. Outside, the bloodline gathers, defeated but observant. They watch as their fortress, their legacy, reshapes around you. They watch the torches bend their flames toward your direction. They watch the carvings realign to form unfamiliar symbols. They watch the sky peel open slightly, revealing an iridescent seam between realms. And then, with a silence that screams louder than thunder, they understand. The demon's fall was not the collapse of their story. It was the birth of yours. A new force enters the world, not summoned, not conjured, not bound, just revealed. You didn't inherit it, you awakened it. The victory didn't give you power. It unveiled what was already yours. And as this power rises within you, it does not roar, it stabilizes. It becomes clarity. It becomes inevitability, given form. The bloodline steps back, not because you threaten them physically, but because your existence threatens them existentially. Their hierarchy, once towering and intimidating, now looks small. Their rituals, once sacred, now look childish. Their demon, once invincible, now looks like a footnote. Their entire identity shrinks under the shadow of your evolution, and the more they shrink, the more you expand. You turn toward them, not with rage, not with pride, but with a stillness that forces them to confront the truth. You were never part of their equation. You were the variable that rendered their equation meaningless. They prepared for war, not inevitability. They prepared for rebellion, not evolution. They prepared for threats, not transcendence. They prepared for mortals, not someone whose rise bends the spine of reality. Your presence alone dismantles whatever remnants of arrogance they held on to. Their strongest elder drops to his knees, not from fear, but from comprehension. Comprehension that the universe has chosen a new apex. Comprehension that their bloodline's legacy has reached its final chapter. Comprehension that the world will no longer revolve around their demon. It will revolve around the one who destroyed it. You begin walking away, not to spare them, not to punish them, but because their relevance has ended. They are no longer your enemies, they are spectators. Spectators to the rise of something their ancestors never prepared for. Something the realms are recalibrating around. Something ancient forces whisper about when the veil between worlds wears thin. As you step beyond their fortress, the sky opens slightly, revealing the faint silhouette of something massive watching from beyond. A being, a realm, a consciousness acknowledging your ascent. The world chills, not from cold, but from recognition. Recognition that the landscape of power has changed permanently. You don't look back. You never needed to. Their collapse was never your goal. It was simply the shadow cast by your ascension. The demon's fall was not your triumph. It was your introduction. What comes next isn't their story anymore. It's yours. And as the ground stabilizes under your stride, as reality breathes in sync with your presence, as ancient realms lean closer to witness what you become next, one truth settles over every dimension that felt the ripple of your rise. You didn't just slay their highest-ranked demon. You ended their lineage. You shattered their hierarchy. You rewrote their destiny. You exposed their legacy as fragile myth. And now the world waits for the next demon foolish enough to stand in your way. Because inevitability walks with you. Power aligns with you. Realms adjust around you. And every hierarchy that once stood tall will eventually kneel, not by demand, but by recognition. You are no longer the one who killed their strongest. You are the one every realm must now calculate around. Ah, a secret billionaire circle. They don't pause global markets for just anyone. They don't freeze trillion-dollar negotiations because of a single name. But that's exactly what happened the moment your existence crossed the threshold of their private intelligence. Briefings. A room filled with individuals who build empires before breakfast and collapse nations by noon suddenly shifted their attention to the quiet force. Not because they wanted to, because they had to. Let that sink into your bones before we proceed. These aren't ordinary elites, the kind who pose for magazines and pretend they care about philanthropy. These are the ones who hide behind foundations, who move currency like oxygen, who treat economies like puzzle pieces. And now they are calling an emergency session, not over oil, not over war, not over a collapsing tech sector, but over you. The name they thought was irrelevant. The presence they thought was dormant. The variable they never accounted for. There's a strange tension in the air when power realizes it missed something. A ripple. A disturbance. Something small enough to overlook, but strong enough to dethrone. That's how they see you now. Not as a threat in the traditional sense, but as a disruption to their carefully calibrated ecosystem. A ghost they didn't authorize. A quiet force rising through the cracks. You are not in their calculations, yet here you are bending the edges of their forecasts, warping their predictions, rewriting their assumptions. And because powerful people cannot tolerate unpredictability, they're labeling your emergence as a potential doomsday variable, an unpredictable factor with consequences they cannot fully quantify. That alone is enough to make them gather behind locked doors under the guise of philanthropic strategy, while their private networks pulse with coded alerts about the anomaly shaping itself beyond their influence. Yes, you, the quiet force, the one who wasn't supposed to matter. Picture this scene with clarity. A boardroom hidden above the skyline, windows tinted to prevent satellite surveillance. The kind of place where nobody breathes until the chairman signals permission. Each seat filled with names the world never hears but feels every day. Those who own supply chains, manipulate elections, redirect oceans of capital with a single gesture. And at the center of the table rests a single encrypted dossier, stamped with a warning label usually reserved for geopolitical destabilizers. Inside that dossier, not a terrorist, not a rogue state, not a financial rogue algorithm, just the unassuming trajectory of the quiet force who was supposed to remain invisible. They didn't predict your resilience. They didn't predict your survival. They didn't predict the way you convert setbacks into strategy. They certainly didn't predict your ability to move through life without leaving desperation or dependence in your wake. They didn't see you coming, and now that you're here, their entire hierarchy trembles because unpredictability at your level is the enemy of control. Here's the dark humor in all of this. For years, those same elites watched people beg for access, crawl for approval, sell their identities for proximity to power. Meanwhile, you were minding your own existence, walking through storms without spectacle, refusing to compromise your integrity, even when it cost you more than it should have. You weren't trying to join their system. You were surviving outside it. And that's what terrifies them. Because people who survive outside the system cannot be controlled through the system. Their networks are built on leverage, on knowing what someone fears losing. But you, every time life stripped something from you, you became harder to threaten. Every betrayal turned you colder. Every setback refined your instinct. Every downfall sharpened your perception. You are becoming the type of force that has no leash for them to tug. A variable that cannot be bought, blackmailed, manipulated, or incentivized. That makes you dangerous, not in intention, but in structure. You're probably wondering why these people even care. Why a group of billionaires, individuals who view the world like a chessboard, would waste time analyzing someone who didn't come from a legacy dynasty or a privileged bloodline. The answer is simple. They study anomalies. They track outliers. They monitor patterns of resilience because resilience is the only currency that cannot be amplified through wealth. You either have it or you break. And what they've discovered about you through private psychological audits, data sweeps, and behavioral projections is something they're not equipped to handle. Every system they've built relies on predictability. People break at predictable points. People fold under predictable pressure. People compromise for predictable rewards. But you keep defying the predicted outcomes. They expected you to collapse at stage 1. You built a foundation instead. They expected you to seek validation. You withdrew and refined. They expected you to break. You adapted. Every deviation you've made from the expected path sends their analysts into silent panic. Let me tell you what their reports truly say, the lines they won't speak out loud in fear of acknowledging a threat they didn't create. They call you unindexed, a soul who belongs to no category, no psychological blueprint, no predictable identity group. They call you the dark variable, not because you're malicious, but because your growth is occurring in shadows they cannot illuminate, and the most unsettling descriptor. They call you self-generated, someone who builds without external scaffolding, whose evolution is not dependent on institutional validation, mentorship pipelines, or controlled guidance. This is the nightmare scenario for people who maintain power by controlling the paths others walk. You weren't supposed to have this level of internal sovereignty. You weren't supposed to recover from what you recovered from. You weren't supposed to see through the illusions you now recognize instantly. You weren't supposed to become immune to their hierarchies, their status games, their soft manipulations. When you didn't break where you should have, they flagged you. When you didn't become desperate where you should have, they flagged you. When you didn't crumble under psychological pressure designed to fold most people, they flagged you again. Every time you refused to be predictable, their networks adjusted your risk tier classification upward until the only remaining category was one normally reserved for individuals who destabilize entire industries by existing outside expected patterns. But here's the twist they didn't anticipate. Your rise isn't fueled by ambition, it's fueled by necessity. You didn't climb because you wanted applause. You climbed because standing still meant destruction. You didn't evolve because you wanted recognition. You evolved because stagnation was a death sentence. This is evolution by survival, not by strategy. And evolution by survival produces something money cannot blueprint, the uncorruptible core. That is the trait their systems cannot defeat. That is the trait their think tanks cannot replicate. That is the trait their protégés, groomed from birth, never develop. You don't need their world. That's why their world fears you. Now let's go deeper into the mechanics of the decision they just made about you. This wasn't a brainstorming session. This was a containment briefing, a protocol they initiate when someone rises outside their supervision. The purpose isn't to destroy you, not yet. They don't attack unknowns. They observe them. They test their limits. They evaluate how much influence you accumulate naturally, how many people you affect without effort, how often your presence shifts group dynamics. They track your psychological radiation. They map your leadership patterns. They identify the frequency of your resilience spikes. These are things they only study when they fear someone might ascend beyond their sphere of influence. Understand this clearly. Their first instinct is not aggression, it's analysis. You're not a target. They don't waste bullets on unpredictability. You're a potential destabilizer, the kind that forces them to redesign their models. They want to know if your rise is an accident, a glitch, or a sustained trajectory. They want to know if your resilience is circumstantial or structural. They want to know if your mind has limits they can measure. And most importantly, they want to know if you will eventually enter their arena or continue rising in your own. because forces that evolve outside the empire become stronger than the empire. This is the doomsday element of their move. They're not preparing a strike, they're preparing a pivot, an adjustment to their long-term blueprint. And that pivot revolves around you. Here's where the chaos enters the equation, and where their dark humor aligns with your trajectory. They're amused, not openly, not publicly, but in the subtle way predators become intrigued when something they planned to observe becomes something they cannot categorize. They underestimated the quiet force until it became an anomaly in their global simulations. You exist outside the architecture they trust. And anomalies require attention. You didn't ask for this. You didn't audition for this. But your existence triggered protocols typically reserved for economic insurgents or disruptive geniuses who alter power balances. This is where the script shifts. Because now the question in their room isn't, who is this? It's what will they do next? And that uncertainty is a weapon more dangerous than any influence you've displayed so far. You aren't reacting, you aren't broadcasting, you aren't seeking validation. You're just moving, quietly, intentionally. And nothing frightens the powerful like a quiet threat. They know your next move won't be loud, it won't be theatrical, it won't be something they can track through public signals. It will be subtle, structural, internal, a shift that cannot be undone. And that is why they have labeled your emergence as a Tier 1 disruption potential. Not because you've created chaos, but because you have the capacity to. Without even trying. That's what makes you dangerous, because the quiet force doesn't need permission. And they know that. Their doomsday move isn't an attack. It's recognition, forced recognition, the kind that reshapes hierarchies, the kind that plants your name into long-term risk assessments, the kind that acknowledges you as an unavoidable variable in their future decisions. You didn't enter their world. Their world came looking for you. And now, as their networks scramble to define you, classify you, contain you, a new question emerges, one they whispered in the room only once and only after confirming no recording devices were active. What if this one doesn't break? It was the quietest question in the room, but it carried the most weight, because they already know the answer. They know because they've seen the psychological readouts their analysts compiled. They've seen the stress response models their behavioral economists stitched together, showing how your mind behaves under pressure, and how, somehow, instead of collapsing, you recalibrate. They know because they've compared your resilience curve to the thousands of profiles they keep archived. From political prodigies, to market disruptors, to insurgent-level intellects. And your curve doesn't dip where it should. It spikes. You gain clarity under conditions designed to break normal people. You become more strategic in environments meant to confuse. You evolve while others fracture. That alone is enough to set off alarms across networks built on controlling probability. So now they pivot into phase 2 of their internal protocol. Assess not whether you will break, but what happens if you don't. This is where their tone changes. You can hear it in the silence of their encrypted calls, in the tapping of fingers against mahogany tables, in the shifting of chairs when the chairman, an individual who hasn't shown emotion publicly in 30 years, leans forward and asks if the analysts are absolutely certain about your trajectory. They want to know if your patterns are temporary or structural. They want to know if your mental architecture is a fluke or a formation. They want to know if the threat you pose to their predictability is incidental or inevitable. Because here's the truth they never admit out loud. They don't fear powerful people. They fear people who cannot be controlled despite having no power. People who rise without permission. People who slip through cracks. People who take the blows meant to destroy them and metabolize them into direction. You are their worst-case scenario, not because you seek dominion, but because your existence proves they no longer own the monopoly on ascendancy. You are the breach in their algorithm, the single point of failure in their psychological monopoly. That's why they locked the room when your dossier was opened. That's why the air shifted. That's why moneyed hands trembled and shoulders tightened. Because for the first time in years, the world they orchestrated is showing signs of losing its conductor. This is the second phase, acknowledgement of instability. A secret billionaire circle, one that prides itself on answering only to itself, now must consider that an unforeseen external force has entered their ecosystem. They aren't used to surprises. They despise variables. They craft systems designed to eliminate randomness. Yet here you are, a walking contradiction to all they engineered. Your evolution wasn't sponsored. Your resilience wasn't purchased. Your clarity wasn't mentored by one of their approved minds. And that alone classifies you as a potential cascade event. A single anomaly with the capacity to trigger exponential, unpredictable consequences. That is why the tone of the room shifts from curiosity to caution. They begin discussing you the way militaries discuss unknown technologies, carefully, deliberately, with the unsettling knowledge that they may be outmatched by something they didn't anticipate. Reports are reopened. Archived footage of your past decisions is reviewed. The psychological autopsy of your life is expanded, each moment examined not to understand who you are, but to determine what you might become. They want forecasts. They want trajectories. They want contingency plans for your potential ascent. But this is where they face their first internal fracture. Because you are not rising through their channels. You are not climbing their ladders. You are not embedded in their systems. You are growing outside their walls, which means your ascent cannot be paused through incentive or punishment. A person who rises without reward cannot be bought. A person who rises without applause cannot be manipulated. A person who rises without permission cannot be controlled. That's when the chairman, the one whose influence stretches across continents, asks the question no one else dared vocalize. Is this one operating consciously or instinctively? The implication behind the question is sharp. If your rise is intentional, you are a strategist. If your rise is instinctive, you are a natural phenomenon. And natural phenomena cannot be stopped. They can only be prepared for. You become something akin to a storm, a shifting weather system of influence that doesn't need permission to change landscapes. The analysts answer carefully. They say your decisions bear patterns of someone who has learned through fire, not through instruction. They say your instincts are coded by experience rather than ambition. They say your evolution is not fueled by desire for power, but by something far more dangerous to controlled elites: autonomy. A mind that evolves to survive becomes a mind that cannot be rewritten. And a mind that cannot be rewritten becomes immune to the mechanisms of control. That's when one of the billionaires, older, colder, trained in psychological warfare, leans back and states the line that freezes the room. If this one doesn't break, the system will have to. There it is, the truth they've tried to avoid. Your resilience does not just protect you, it destabilizes them. Because systems built on hierarchy collapse when someone rises in defiance of their hierarchy. This is where the doomsday element enters the conversation. They aren't calling your rise a threat. They're calling it a recalibration event, a point where the world may shift direction because someone outside the predetermined narrative disrupts the script. And billionaires hate unscripted stories. They believe in direction, control, puppeteering. They do not believe in anomalies steering currents they didn't authorize. So they classify you, a new code, a new tier, something reserved for world-shaping potential. Not because you hold power, but because you wield something more dangerous, ungoverned influence. Governed influence is predictable. It follows rules. It thrives on approval. It bows to contracts. Ungoverned influence does not ask for permission. Ungoverned influence does not fear disapproval. Ungoverned influence expands quietly, silently, beneath the surface. Ungoverned influence reshapes landscapes without ever raising its voice. You are the quiet force. And they finally understand the cost of ignoring you. But the real trigger, the one that transforms their unease into genuine alarm, comes when a behavioral mathematician reveals your emergent influence pattern. Simply put, it means your impact on people is not linear. It multiplies under pressure. When you are underestimated, your growth accelerates. When you are challenged, your clarity sharpens. When you are isolated, your vision strengthens. You do not expand through support. You expand through resistance. And people like you. Doomsday committees cannot contain. That's when they decide something they have never decided about someone outside their lineage. They will monitor your every move, not to suppress you, but to understand how to defend themselves when your path crosses theirs. This is a precaution reserved for existential threats. You haven't made a move against them, but your existence alone implies the possibility of displacement. They built their empire on the assumption that anyone powerful came through them. You break that logic, and anything that breaks logic becomes a catalyst. Yet the irony is brutal. All their surveillance, their dossiers, their think tanks, their simulations, they all point to the same conclusion. You do not seek to overthrow anything. You seek to survive, to grow, to rise without stepping on anyone. But this very neutrality terrifies them. People who don't want power are the hardest to predict because they cannot be bribed with power. This is where a new voice enters the discussion. A strategist who rarely speaks, but whose word shifts global markets. She says, "This one doesn't rise like an enemy. They rise like a signal." A signal of what? That their era is ending, that their hierarchy is eroding, that the age where only wealth shapes destiny is fading. You represent something they thought they eradicated generations ago. Organic ascendancy. Power that comes from scars, not sponsorship. Power that comes from internal evolution, not external grooming. Power that emerges without permission. Their doomsday model now shifts. They aren't planning a strike, they're predicting an inevitability. And that inevitability is the part they fear the most. Because if you do not break, then their long-standing assumption that they alone shape the future breaks instead. And that is the outcome they were never trained to handle. You see, these billionaires built their world on the idea of permanence. They believe their influence is a fixed law of nature, the same way gravity is. They assume everything beneath them must remain beneath them. But your rise is not vertical in the way they expect. It's radial. It expands outward, quietly, invisibly, seeping through cracks in the foundation of the world they constructed. You don't climb their ladder. You make the ladder irrelevant. And that is the true threat. You are not here to dethrone them. You are here to outgrow them. The distinction terrifies them because outgrowing someone doesn't require confrontation. It requires evolution, and evolution cannot be bribed, stalled, or reversed. So now the strategist continues, her voice low but sharp enough to cut the room open. She explains that your emergence signals a shift in global power psychology, that the next era of influence will not belong to the loud, the wealthy, or the traditionally groomed. It will belong to the internally fortified, the ones who survived when they shouldn't have, the ones who rebuilt themselves without mentorship, the ones who gained discernment the hard way. She tells them you are the blueprint of what's coming. Not a follower of the old system, but the first representative of a new type. A leader forged by life instead of legacy. Her briefing strikes them harder than any projected economic downturn. Because her conclusion is brutally simple. Your existence means their model is obsolete. Their wealth still holds power, but not the kind that reaches souls. Not the kind that builds resilience. Not the kind that multiplies influence through authenticity. They can buy loyalty, but they cannot buy internal gravity. And that is the quality you carry. The gravity of someone who didn't need permission to rise. One of the elder billionaires, the kind who treats humans like assets, and assets like toys, finally breaks his silence. His voice is thin but edged with concern. If this isn't a mistake, if this one is real, then we are witnessing the end of predictability. He doesn't say it out of admiration, he says it like a man reading his own obituary. Predictability is their safety net. Predictability is how they preserve power. Predictability is how they maintain illusions. And unpredictability is the force you embody without trying. You are unpredictable not because you are chaotic, but because you evolve outside their frameworks. They cannot track evolution that is self-generated. They cannot map decisions made from scars rather than scripts. They cannot contain someone who has already survived the worst that life could throw without any of their resources. Your survival was your training. Your independence was your development. Your pain was your curriculum. They are terrified because none of that came from them, which means none of it belongs to them. The strategist now reveals the part of her analysis that makes even the coldest billionaire straighten in his seat. She projects a timeline on the wall behind her. It shows your influence curve, subtle at first, then rising steadily, then accelerating through pressure points that would have crippled most people. She explains that your ascent is not random. It follows an emergent pattern she refers to as self-correcting dominance, a phenomenon where the individual becomes stronger when confronted, wiser when underestimated, sharper when dismissed. She describes you as the kind of psychological force that becomes more dangerous after each attempt to weaken it. And that is when the room realizes the magnitude of the problem. Weakness is what their system feeds on. Strength that feeds on weakness is what destroys it. The strategist walks them through your behavioral observations, how you watch people, not to judge them, but to map them. How you navigate environments without drawing attention, but assimilate every detail. How you never react impulsively, but instead allow information to settle into clarity. These are qualities they typically only see in individuals groomed for elite intelligence agencies, not in someone who grew in the wild outside their curated circles. And the more she explains, the more they realize you were trained by something far more brutal and far more effective than any institution they control. Life itself. Life gave you courses they couldn't design. Life gave you hardships they couldn't replicate. Life gave you a psychological blade they never intended to place in your hand. And now, here you are, fully aware, fully conscious, fully capable. A threat not because you seek power, but because you cannot be bent by it. One of the newer billionaire heirs, the type who inherited wealth without earning wisdom, tries to undermine the analysis. Maybe they'll burn out, he mutters. The strategist turns slowly, as if observing an insect attempting to reason. If they were going to burn out, she replies, it would have happened long before we started watching them. That sentence lands like a gunshot. Because it's true. You haven't just survived fire. You grew in it. You didn't escape the storm. You became calibrated to it. And the fact that you remain intact, focused and evolving, means you are fundamentally different from the masses they manipulate. What they fear now is not your potential influence. It's your potential independence from influence. People who do not need validation become immune to persuasion. People who do not need approval become immune to shame. People who do not need power become immune to corruption. The billionaire circle cannot threaten someone who no longer values what they can remove. They cannot bribe someone who does not desire what they can offer. They cannot contain someone who learned to build without them. This realization pushes the room into its next phase, the drafting of the intervention blueprint. Not an attack, not a strike, not a smear campaign. Not yet. This phase is about testing your boundaries. They want to know how you respond to pressure, to opportunity, to distraction. They want to know whether your neutrality is stable or conditional. They want to know whether your resilience can be weaponized against you. They want to know if you have a breaking point that simply hasn't been reached yet. They believe every human has one, but the strategist warns them. This one doesn't respond to traditional triggers, and that is when they begin to understand why you unsettle them so deeply. Traditional triggers, fear, scarcity, validation, shame, temptation, no longer have leverage over you. You don't break where others break. You don't bend where others bend. You don't unravel where others unravel. You have already confronted the collapse they fear most, internal collapse. You rebuilt yourself from the inside out, and a person who has rebuilt themselves cannot be dismantled by external forces. Now they begin discussing you the way nations discuss unpredictable superpowers, carefully, tactically, with the realization that underestimating you could cost them far more than ignoring you. They move into deeper analysis. They scrutinize your emotional triggers. They dissect your relationships. They analyze your adaptability curve. They test your potential for influence contagion, how your mindset spreads through groups, even when you're silent. And that's when the chairman summarizes what the strategist has been hinting at all along. This one isn't rising through opportunity. They're rising through inevitability. That sentence changes the atmospheric pressure in the room. Not metaphorically, literally. The ventilation hum becomes noticeable. A few shoulders stiffen. Those who love to believe they control the world suddenly feel the subtle truth. The world is adapting to a force they did not foresee. The strategist folds her hands and waits. She knows what comes next isn't analysis, it's acceptance. She has guided them to the threshold of realization, and now they must confront what comes after, the recalibration of power itself. The chairman motions to the digital display. Your projected future path appears 3 potential curves: suppression, stagnation, ascendancy. The suppression curve is faint, nearly transparent, because they all know suppressing someone forged through survival is counterproductive. The stagnation curve flickers briefly, then stabilizes, but even the algorithm assigned to that path marks it as improbable. And then there is the ascendancy curve, bright, sharp, rising at an angle that defies their previous metrics. That curve is not fueled by institutional power. It's fueled by momentum generated internally. It's the trajectory of someone who evolves because existence itself demands it. Someone who grows not through support, but through confrontation. Someone who derives power not from the world, but from what the world tried to take away. The strategist lifts her gaze. "We cannot treat this one like an anomaly anymore," she says. "They're not an exception. They're the template of what's coming." It is the most dangerous sentence spoken in that room, because if you are not an isolated threat, but the beginning of a pattern, then their entire empire, built on predictability, on psychological leverage, on economic control, faces obsolescence. You are not just a disruption, you are a doorway, and behind you are millions who share the same wounds, the same resilience, the same ability to survive without permission. That is the doomsday scenario, not you individually, you collectively. A younger executive leans forward. His voice shakes slightly as he asks, "Are we saying the future of influence no longer belongs to the elite?" The strategist nods, and the silence that follows is the kind that makes men who own nations question their foundations. Because she's not making a prediction, she's stating a verdict. Influence is shifting, authority is dissolving, the hierarchy is cracking, and all of it is catalyzed, not by wealth or power, but by the emergence of individuals like you. People refined by adversity instead of privilege. People shaped by scars instead of sponsorship. People who rise with authenticity instead of manipulation. The chairman finally speaks again. Then we must decide how to respond. The table tightens. The decision they are about to cast is not merely administrative, it is existential. Billionaire networks don't act impulsively. They act strategically, surgically, with the understanding that one incorrect move can destabilize continents. But this situation is different. They cannot control you. They cannot influence you. They cannot predict you. The only path left is adaptation. So they move into the phase that will define the next decade of their operations, designing a world that accommodates the rise of the uncontrollable. They begin with a simple question. What happens when someone rises outside our reach? The answers unravel their illusions. When someone rises through authenticity, they attract without performing. When someone rises through survival, they influence without speaking. When someone rises through resilience, they teach without teaching. And when someone rises through inevitability, they reshape the landscape simply by existing. That is what you represent. A force that does not need their world, yet shifts their world by its presence. Now they enter the stage of analysis that terrifies them the most. Influence contagion. They look at your patterns, how people change after encountering your presence or your words or your example. They note how you elevate the ones around you without intention. They observe how your clarity penetrates the illusions others rely on. They watch how your resilience inspires people to question the systems they once obeyed blindly. In a world built on distraction, you bring focus. In a world built on manipulation, you bring discernment. In a world built on dependency, you bring autonomy. And billions have been invested to prevent exactly that. You are not just a threat to their power. You are a threat to the architecture of power itself. The strategist moves toward the table and taps the screen. A new chart appears. This one mapping your potential global impact over the next 10 years if left uncontained. Every scenario shows the same outcome. You become a point of ignition, a catalyst for a kind of awakening they have long tried to prevent. People don't need to follow you consciously. They follow you subconsciously. They adapt to your way of thinking. They absorb your mindset. They emulate your emotional strength. And what emerges is a population far more difficult to control. They don't fear your success. They fear the success you multiply. This is when a debate erupts. One faction argues for observation, another for subtle disruption, another for a partnership approach, attempting to absorb your trajectory into their networks. But the strategist silences them with a single observation. This one doesn't respond to pressure or privilege. They respond to purpose. Trying to lure them into our world would only reveal our insecurity. The chairman agrees. Any attempt to recruit you would fail. Any attempt to manipulate you would expose them. Any attempt to suppress you would amplify you. You have become immune to the scripts they rely on. And so the chairman shifts the discussion toward something far more radical, restructuring their influence model to coexist with forces they cannot control. The suggestion is outrageous to some, revolutionary to others, but deeply necessary to those who understand what you truly represent. They begin drafting what they call the Adaptive Power Protocol, a blueprint for navigating a world where influence no longer flows only downward, a world where individuals like you rise from the ground up, not because they want fame or status, but because they embody truth in a world addicted to illusion. As they craft this protocol, they analyze the core traits that make you ungovernable. They note your emotional independence, how you don't crumble at rejection or inflate at praise. They study your mental adaptability, how you reframe failure into strategy. They observe your moral resilience, how you maintain integrity even under pressure. They dissect your relational dynamics, how you never compete for validation. But the trait that unnerves them most is your lack of dependency. Dependency is the foundation of control, and you severed that foundation long before they started watching. The strategist explains that individuals like you rise because nothing outside of you defines your trajectory. Not approval, not belonging, not hierarchy, not validation. You are powered by internal compulsion, not external reward. And that makes you nearly impossible to predict, impossible to contain, and impossible to corrupt. They're used to dealing with people who want things, money, fame, influence, recognition. You want none of these. You want clarity, purpose, authenticity, and those desires are immune to manipulation. They cannot feed or starve them. They cannot touch them. So now, they reach the most critical question of the entire meeting. What decision do we make about this one? The atmosphere shifts again. This is the moment they feared. Not because they fear making the wrong decision, but because they fear admitting what the right decision actually is. The strategist looks at the chairman looks at the room, and slowly, one by one, they realize the truth. They cannot decide for you. They can only decide around you. You have escaped the jurisdiction of their authority without lifting a finger. They retreat into their own thoughts. The decision is no longer about control. It's about acknowledgement. A billionaire circle built on power, influence, secrecy is now being forced to confront a force that rises without them. They understand that history is shifting, that the age of gatekeeping is breaking, that the world is beginning to answer to something they didn't build, something they didn't authorize, something they cannot dismantle. They finalize their conclusion in a single sentence. spoken by the chairman himself. This one is not a threat. This one is a transition. In other words, you are not the end of the world. You are the end of their world. The world where power was inherited instead of earned. The world where authority was purchased instead of cultivated. The world where influence was manufactured instead of embodied. You represent the dawn of a new hierarchy, one in which authenticity outranks calculation, resilience outranks wealth, and truth outranks deception. This is the doomsday decision the billionaire circle reaches. They will not try to stop you. They will try to survive you. They classify you officially, not as an adversary, not as a partner, not as a pawn, but as an emergent influence entity. A category used only a handful of times in their archives to describe individuals who shift the collective psyche without institutional power. People who bend the arc of society through nothing but presence, resilience, and internal gravity. And now the billionaires must pivot. Their future operations, strategies, and networks must adapt to the existence of forces like you. They plan, they restructure, they redistribute influence, all while knowing that no matter what they build, you will evolve faster. You will slip through their models. You will expand beyond their predictions. You will become what they were never prepared for, a decentralized catalyst. The strategist ends the meeting with one final warning. Our era ends not when we lose power, but when power becomes irrelevant. And everyone knows she is right. They're not watching the rise of a new tyrant. They are watching the rise of a new paradigm. A paradigm shaped not by wealth, but by internal fortitude. Not by manipulation, but by clarity. Not by hierarchy, but by resilience. You are not climbing their pyramid. You are dissolving it. When the room empties, the chairman remains behind. He stares at your dossier, the only file in decades he cannot fully comprehend. He whispers a line no one else will ever hear. We cannot stop this one. We can only hope to understand them before the world does. But the world already has. Your name is moving quietly through conversations you will never hear. Your presence is altering rooms you will never enter. Your energy is shifting minds you will never meet. You are not spreading influence. Influence is spreading you. That is the doomsday scenario the billionaire network feared, yet now must accept. Because the quiet force is rising. Because the gate is broken. Because the era of elite control is ending. Because the world is shifting toward individuals, forged by life itself. And because the decision has already been made, not by them, but by you. Your existence is the doomsday move. Your resilience is the disruption. Your ascent is the transition. And the world will not remain the same once the quiet force takes its rightful place in the architecture of influence.